Let's start with a truth that might sting a little, but it could change everything for your career trajectory next year. You're not stuck because you're unqualified. You're stuck because your story isn't doing your career justice. Not your resume, not your job history, not your skills, your story. And once you see that clearly, you can't unsee it. Today, I'm going to break down why mid career pros get stuck and the simple mindset and strategy shift that move you out of the dark and into the driver's seat heading into 2026. Let me be blunt for a second with some love. Most career stories are dull. Not wrong, not untrue, just dull. Packed with tasks, packed with responsibilities, packed with a backstory no hiring manager or your manager is listening for. A dull story can sink a brilliant career. A sharp story opens doors you didn't even know were there. So here's the formula I teach my clients. Simple but powerful and repeatable. This works for resumes, for interviews, for networking, for promotions, for one-on-one conversations with your boss, anywhere you need your value to be very clear. So one, start with a leadership level verb, not helped, supported, assisted. Think ownership. You accelerated, you directed, you stabilized, mobilized, you grew. You want to sound like you're taking control, like you're a leader instantly from word one. Then, and here's what most people get wrong, is that you want to move into the result. Most people like to say, oh, I led projects, I led this thing with, whatever skill, and then the result is buried at the end. You want to put that bottom line first. The bottom line is that you can drive results, that you can own, right? That's that leadership word, and drive results. That is what people look for when they're thinking about who to promote, who to hire, who to bring in for an interview. So put the outcome first. Don't explain the method, don't explain the process, don't explain the context. You can do that after. Talk about what the win was. If it can be measurable, even better. Increased productivity, drove 10% increase of blah, 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 right? Talk about the win that you got first. Then you really want to focus on one win per line, per point, per sentence. You don't want to say, we increase productivity, we increase customer satisfaction, blah, 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 blah. You're missing really breaking apart kind of the power of that story. Stay sharp, stay focused, one win per sentence, per bullet, per answer to an interview. Sharp equals focus, and that helps your audience focus on what you're talking about. Number four, connect every win to the job you want, right? Yeah, you have a career stacked full of wins, stacked full of successes, stacked full of accomplishments. Definitely years worth of great stuff. But what you've got to think about is where you're headed toward. What is the goal of this conversation? What is the goal of this bullet point? What is the goal of whatever you're writing or saying? And that is to get an interview, land the job, convince them to send you to the next round, convince your boss to put your name forward in the promotion or progression or compensation cycle, right? You want to think about what is the goal and why am I telling them this information? And does it serve that goal? Your goal is to show that you are the obvious choice for the thing you want. So relevance is extraordinarily key. Now, let me show you a quick example. So the difference between a dull story and a sharp one. So this is something that I saw somebody post on LinkedIn the other day was I eliminated wasted effort, aligned stakeholders, and accelerated revenue growth. Those things are great, right? Like I'm impressed by those. I know what they mean, but I have to dig, I have to think about it. A sharp story is really, again, like not just talking about like a few different things or different ways in which you did it, but really focusing in. And again, if you can get measurable, better. So instead of eliminated wasted effort, aligned stakeholders, accelerated revenue growth, it's accelerated 10% year over year revenue by building frameworks that eliminated wasted effort and aligned senior stakeholders, right? Like that's a very different sentence, very more focused on the impact of the work that you've done. People remember impact. They remember the story. They remember how much you were able to do somewhere else. And if they think you can do that thing wherever you're headed. So it's the same person, it's the same work, but it's a completely different perception. And that's really the power of the sharp story. So leadership verb, Focus on what that win was, then talk about how you did it, and make sure the whole thing is really relevant to whatever your goal of that conversation is. So hopefully this was helpful. And if something clicked for you today and you felt that little bit of, oh, that might be why some of my stories aren't landing, or I really need to go relook at my resume bullet points, then, I'd be happy to help. If you have a specific resume bullet point that you want help reworking, maybe it's giving you a little bit of trouble, or maybe you just want one as an example, feel free to DM me either on LinkedIn or on Substack, and I will happily help you rewrite that. If you know you need a whole strategy plan and you're looking at not only how to strategically position your story so that you can powerfully move forward, but also your entire job search strategy as far as it goes with what you want next and moving into 2026. Then I do have my next cohort of your next role accelerator kicking off. It is a 5-week program. It'll help you get really clear on where you're headed, how to turn that story that you have and all those accomplishments in your past into something targeted forward, update all your assets, make sure that your interview stories line up with that as well, and ensuring that you're using a very targeted search strategy, right? Based on what you want to do, based on your story, based on who you are, what are the things that are really going to move a lever in a hyper competitive market today? Because that strategy is super important. And I think we'll talk about more about that next week. So if you're not subscribed already, subscribe to my newsletter on Substack or follow me on LinkedIn and join us next week as we dive a little bit deeper. And if you're interested in the Next Role Accelerator, DM me as well. And I hope that this was helpful. And if you need anything else or you see another topic that you'd like to have a conversation about, let me know. I'd love to hear what topics are really interesting for you. So for now, put down the popcorn and get in the game.